What's good, everybody? Jack back with your boy Mike. Gonna jump into a little Bears talk. It's a little different this week. Usually we do them on, maybe like a Thursday night. That's typically just what works best schedule-wise. But first time since I think we did it on a Thursday night game, actually, where we did it, sort of right before the game. Similar story today. It's Sunday morning. Looking at about 90 minutes out from kickoff, a little over that, and feels like a true pregame show, man. I'm juiced up, feeling good, excited to see if the Bears can keep our playoff hopes alive over in Cleveland today. It's a great time, man. Great time to feel like we have meaningful football in Chicago this late in the season for the first time in the better part of 3 years at this point. So feeling good, feeling juiced, feeling excited for today's game. Can't wait to get into it. Before we start looking ahead, truly just to that Cleveland game specifically with our keys, quick recap. Last time we were on here, Bears were playing the Lions, took care of business, a nice 28-13, sort of drumming really on the lakefront. The Bears looked so good in that first game against the Lions. I think it gave us a lot of reasons to be confident heading into the second time around. Game, opened up nicely for the Bears, and then we sort of had that fourth down sequence where we kind of ran the QB draw on the third and short, only got a yard or two, and then they did that little cute flip play to DJ Moore that they lost yardage on, and then it seemed like the momentum sort of swung to Detroit. Leave a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth going into halftime. Felt like the Bears were playing well, but all of a sudden they're down. You're thinking same old Bears. This is going to spiral out of control, but they came out in the second half, absolutely dominated. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Detroit scored a single point in the second half. It was a great win, man. Justin Fields, building that resume a little bit, trying to stake a claim for, the argument's sake that he should be at the very least have his fifth-year option picked up and continue to see what he can build. And the team in general is just taking step by step. I know the Lions, I've not very high on them personally, but they still have an excellent record. They killed the Broncos last night. We're coming off of seeing that happen. So still a solid team with a really good record in a tough league. And the Bears took it to them. I think it's a lot to be encouraged about heading forward, and they just got to keep stacking them, moving in the right direction. How you feeling after last week's Bears victory?
Yeah, man, I think Detroit might be a good style matchup for the Bears. You talk about styles. It seems like we seem to play pretty well against them, despite their really strong record in this tough NFL. Impressive win last week, like you said. They made some great halftime adjustments and came out and shut them out in the second half. Um, you with your keys and not to shout out myself, but prior weeks myself, the last 3 4 5 weeks our keys have been spot on, Jack. Last week you throw out the Jared Goff mistakes. You talk about needing to make a ground presence known. A couple other points you made. I mean, I talk about some of the dirty hits. I mean, that we know Detroit's going to do, and all of these things are coming true. So nobody knows the Bears better than us on all of the internet. So I just want to give us a quick shout out. But yeah, also, I mean, shout out to Bears, man. Their defense is playing great. Offense is doing some things. I know Ben Johnson's a hot name for a lot of Bears fans that don't like this coaching staff. He got shut out in the second half. He hasn't looked great against our own team, which, while we like the things the Bears are doing, and they're far from world beaters yet. So that's a name that I think's got to be losing traction with a lot of Bears fans if they're thinking about it logically. But no, it's a great win to win two in a row, against the division, to feel like you're finally building some momentum for the first time in a few years. Obviously since Eberflus has taken over, but they were steadily losing steam under Nagy. So maybe 4 years since you feel like you're actually building any momentum. It's a good feeling, man. We'll see what ends up happening these last 4 weeks. I honestly feel like we got a game this week where for the first time in 4 or 5 weeks, I kind of have no idea what's going to happen. Are we going to get the Cleveland from early on in this year where their defense is absolutely lights out? Are they a bad matchup for us? Or are we going to get the Cleveland from recent weeks while Joe Flacco's doing some good stuff on the offensive side of the ball, their defense doesn't look that great. So, what are we going to see out of the Browns? I don't really know, but we're going to talk about it with our keys to this week's game. Overall, big picture for the Bears. I personally like what I've seen. I know in group chats and stuff like that, I've kind of been more so keep this staff unless you're hiring a home run replacement. But the jury's still out. Even with me, I think with everybody, with 4 weeks to go, we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I'm sure everyone's forming an opinion. Some people I sure are set in stone, but there's a reason you got to play out the string. And 4 games is a lot. The NFL is still a league where you play 17 games. You got 4 more. That's still about a quarter of your season left.
Yep.
There's a lot to be gleaned from these opportunities coming down the stretch. And I'm excited to see where it goes, see what the staff can prove, see what Fields can prove or not prove. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things going on, and it's really going to determine the future of this organization and where we're heading long term in the immediate future, and down the road here. The only thing I'll say quickly about your Ben Johnson comment, while I agree with some of your sentiment, I do think you have to sort of factor in. He's probably sort of hamstrung with a guy like Jared Goff,
Yeah.
and it's been impressive what he's done for Jared Goff's career with
For
him
sure.
and that team. But yeah, other than that,
And
I don't
and I
disagree.
agree. If you're looking at him big picture, I see why teams want him. He's a bright young play caller. I just personally, my stance. I'm kind of not loving the idea of hiring like a hot coordinator right now. That's like kind of where I'm at. But
Yeah,
I get why a lot of NFL teams like to do it. You see guys like McDaniel have success, a million guys around the league. And I know why guys like Bobby Slowick and Ben Johnson and some of the other names out there are getting recognition as potential head coaching candidates, and it makes sense. But I just personally don't love that thought process right now.
yeah, absolutely. No, and it's like I said, totally fair to feel like, from your perspective, you think they're sort of building something positive, and you don't just want to throw it away for another random guy, and then 2 years from now we're back in the same talk track of what do we do. So yeah, I get that, but either way, that's neither here nor there today. Like I said, for the first time in a long time, the Bears have a very important football game in the middle of December. It's exciting stuff. We are definitely a long shot, but in the hunt graphic that we all love so much is very real right now for us. But in order for that to matter, you do got to take care of business. You're going to have to win out, kind of pull a sort of Lions like finish to the season from last year. We've already won 2 in a row. Let's see if we can get to 3 this week and burn it out down the stretch. But it all starts today. That being said, let's jump into your keys to a Bears victory on the road against a vaunted Cleveland Browns defense.
Yeah, man, 1 week at a time. But you start stacking weeks, you never know what can happen. That being said, let's get into the keys, like you said. All right, my first key of the week. Big picture. I like if you were to look at the Cleveland Browns roster heading into the season and how they operate as a franchise, they build trenches out, and I think overall that's a pretty good philosophy. Everybody knows about some of the dogs they have on defense, particularly Miles Garrett, but their offensive line is potentially the best in the NFL when it's at full strength. They're down 3 starters at this point in the season. Both their tackles in recent weeks, maybe even both of them last week, are lost for the remainder of their regular season, um, maybe the season overall. And their center is actually out this week as well. So they're out. Their starting center and both their tackles. Both their starting guards are playing, and they are good guards, but they're down 3 key pieces on their offensive line. So I think the first key to uh, a potential Bears W. Obviously, we're going to need our defense to step up and play some good defense, but that's going to start with dominating the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, they got 3 offensive linemen out. We need our defensive line to step up, have some swagger, realize they're going up against some backups, and dominate the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. That's the first key.
I love that first key. Like you said, just pointing out how thin that offensive line is. Whenever you find yourselves in that sort of predicament, it's something you absolutely have to take advantage of. We know what happened last time the Bears played at Cleveland, and that's what they did to the Bears offensive line. It was Justin Fields' first start, if I remember correctly, and they just got after him. I think he might have got sacked like 9 or 10 times. It was just so ugly, start to finish. But yeah, when a team's that thin of the whole position group, you certainly have to take advantage of that as a key to win the football game. And just along that thread, Joe Flacco, I, his story is kind of amazing right now. Coming off of
Yeah.
this couch and putting up the numbers he is. It's not today, but from afar, it's kind of cool to see a guy do something like that. So hopefully, but
100%.
that being said, Joe Flacco is a statue.
Yeah.
He's not the guy who's going to move around or escape pressure. He kind of needs a pocket, and he's probably good at, as far as like getting it out and that sort of thing. He's veteran, savvy, all that, good heady type of guy. But he's a statue back there. If you get pressure, he's not going to evade it. Attack that thin line, get to the quarterback, and get him flustered, get him rattled. I do think Yannick Ngakoue, maybe not as much of an impact as a lot of Bears fans might have hoped, but that being said, he still is
Still get
leading
some
the team in
sacks. Yeah.
sacks.
Still get some
I think he
sacks.
still has 4.5, which is number one on the team. I know Sweat is very clearly our best offensive lineman, if not our best defensive player since his addition. So it's made the line a little bit different, but I'm interested to see sort of who steps up and takes advantage of those Yannick Ngakoue snaps. I do think it's going to help us be even a little bit better against the run. And yeah, I'm interested to see who sort of, what kind of opportunities maybe some of those younger guys get, so you can kind of step up and fill that pass rushing role. But yeah, I love that key of the defensive line getting after a thin offensive line on the road. Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Got to happen. Got to get Flacco to the ground, keep the pressure on them all day, baby. What's key number two?
Absolutely. Key number two, kind of another basic one, but don't let Myles Garrett wreck the game. We all know that Justin Fields, especially in fourth quarter situations, has been susceptible to a bad timing turnover, especially fumble, throughout his 3-year NFL career. Um, a guy like Myles Garrett not only is capable of getting a couple sacks in a game, but he's definitely capable of the big play, which is a strip sack, potential scoop and score for somebody on his defense. We have to keep him from wrecking the game. I think if you're the Bears coaching staff and looking at this game, you're hoping that this kind of gets ugly and you guys can win a low scoring game. Um, and we're going to keep Myles Garrett from impacting the game with a potential like strip sack, game breaking play that just sets the offense behind the eight ball. You don't want to play catch up against a defense with a guy like that can wreck a game. So keep Myles Garrett from making the ultimate game breaking play, which in my mind is probably a strip sack.
Yeah, it's an excellent point on all fronts. Just kind of how you mentioned the individual himself. Miles Garrett's an absolute stud. Probably one of the top 3 or 4, no matter what argument you want to make, defensive players in the NFL. He's certainly in that conversation. Do you think he's number one?
I think he's number one.
Yeah. So that's yeah. I mean, I am not a futures person. I only
Yeah.
made 3 NFL futures the whole year. One of them was Miles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year. I think I got it at plus 850. So I hope he continues to do well. But yeah, not today. He's a guy like you said. Those game wrecking type of plays. I think that's very well said because he's someone who's not going to fill up the sheet with tackles. You might see go through a half or maybe even 3 quarters where like he's getting frustrated. Yeah, he's getting some pressures, but his impact's not being felt other than they're feeling it because they're keying on him, they're doubling him, they're giving him all sorts of attention, but he's not really doing anything from the casual fan standpoint to really change it. And then like you said, all of a sudden he just gets that one play that totally flips it. We know one of our biggest frustrations with Fields is his lack of ball security at times. And yeah, it'd be devastating to kind of feel like I do think it's going to be a tight game. And that's the last thing you can have happen is him just break through out of nowhere, finally get his opportunity, and next thing you know, they flip the field or get a defensive touchdown, whatever the case may be. That's an excellent key because those are absolute backbreakers, and it's hard to win a football game when you let something like that go against you. So that's yeah, that's one of my favorite ones in a while.
Yeah, man. Real quick side note. So I don't know if he's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year or not. Odds I've seen, it seems like Micah Parsons somehow is still the favorite. Maybe it's because his team's doing so well, on top of pretty good individual production. Um, but I just think from like a pure raw like question of who, if you could have anybody in the league to start a defense with, he might be number one for me. I mean, he's a freak. He's a stud, in every sense of the word. So that's my opinion on Miles Garrett. But my third key of the week. This one I don't think I've touched on this year. Number one, because I don't know if it's really applied quite to the to the amount that it applies today. But Cleveland is an entirely different team at home than they are on the road. If this was a game at Soldier Field, I might be compelled to put a large wager on the Bears, to win the game. But I'm kind of nervous with them going to Cleveland. Um, you couple that with some of the mistakes we just talked about that Justin Fields has made, his proneness to maybe take a sack at an untimely time in the past as well, not just the turnovers, but untimely sacks. The offensive lines, early season, maybe they've gotten better at it as the season's gone on, but their poor timely situations of taking a bad penalty. We cannot let this Cleveland crowd overwhelm, especially our offensive side of the football here today. They are 6-1 at home and only 2-4 on the road, so that tells me they got quite a sizable home field advantage, at least in my mind. Um, when times get tough today, they cannot get flustered by the Cleveland crowd, and that's my third key of the day is kind of keep your composure in a tough road uh, stadium.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It certainly seems uh, just a couple weeks ago, probably for one of the first times in our lifetime, Detroit's, decent. They're pretty solid, if not good. As much as I don't believe in them, the record is what the record is, and I think that they felt some of that when they were in Detroit and they had that lead. Next thing you know, they give up the touchdown. It's a little shaky, and then that crowd's behind them, and they sort of unravel. And I think that's a good point about you can't let that happen. You got to keep your composure down the stretch. The thing about the sacks is so key too. Fields has that propensity to you're going to get sacked. The line's going to break down, especially against a great defense, especially against the Miles Garrett led defensive front. But you got the sacks. You take a 5, 6
Yeah,
yard sack. It's those Fields has that
11,
that
12.
knack for the 12-yard
Yeah.
sack, and I get it. He's because he's trying to scramble and make those plays, which are back breakers for the defense. But it's like sometimes they lead to those just abysmal losses that no offense is going to be able to overcome unless you got maybe Mahomes doing some magic tricks and things like that. But yeah, I think that's a great point about keeping the crowd out of it as best as you can because they truly are. I mean, those records speak for themselves as how solid they've been at home. Um, the last thing I'll say, kind of related to just something I'll be keeping an eye on as far as a key that we didn't necessarily touch on directly. Um, I believe the Cleveland Browns are number one in the NFL on third down defense.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be a big thing today too. Got to keep drives alive. Getsy, people give him a lot of flack. I think he's been doing a decent job though of changing game plans per the opponent for the most part. And I think you got to stay ahead of the chains. Make sure you're in a lot of third and manageables so that we can get those conversions. If you're playing behind the sticks all day, I think the Browns are proven to be the best in the league at getting offenses off the field. So I think that's something we'll have to keep a good eye out for today as well.
Yeah, that's situational football is something that this team seems to be improving on as the season goes on. But yeah, when you're going up against the number one team in third down defense, that's just going to be even that much more important. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
a huge key for sure.
no doubt. Yeah. So Cleveland said, they're much better at home. They're having a pretty good season themselves. 8-5. It's a massive game for them as well. Probably not quite going to be able to catch the Ravens. Ravens got a little bit of a tough schedule down the stretch here, but probably not going to catch them in the division. But they're still certainly in the thick of that playoff hunt in the AFC wild card. Massive game at home for them. Kevin Stefanski, probably sneaky coach of the year candidate. They're on their fourth quarterback. They're 8-5. They lost their running back the first game of the year, Nick Chubb. I'm not a running back guy, but like he's one of the handful that probably is a little bit of a difference maker.
Yep.
And they've just kept it going. They've kept the ship rolling right along. So they've done some impressive things, but Bears got to take it to them today, man. They got to go out and get a win. Score prediction wise, I do think it's going to be tight from what I'm hearing. And I think we talked about it a little bit earlier this morning. It sounds like it's going to be a little bit of a weather game in Cleveland. It seems like anything going on the East Coast today, there's going to be some iffy weather, which always makes for interesting football. But yeah, I don't know. I see it being tight. I think there are going to be some more points than a lot of people think. I know you like the over in general.
37 and a half.
Yeah, I just think it's something where, people see two good defenses and they're like, it's, no one's going to be able to score. It's going to be a grind, especially with the weather. But I think there will be a little bit of scoring out there. I think there's some still big play potential in Flacco's arm. The guy's still got a cannon, and Fields has been, keeping that offense churning, moving. I don't know, man. Bears got to win. It's going to be tough. I hate to say it, for the first time in a while, I don't know if I think I would say the Bears are going to win this game. They're so good at home. But I think if they stick to your keys, that defensive line dominates a hurt offensive line. That's such a big difference. 3 starters
It's
out.
huge.
They can,
And it's like their center's like one of the best in the NFL. Their tackles have been
yeah,
good. Like it's 3 like good starters. It's not like 3 like
yeah,
slapdick offensive linemen that are just filling in. It's not
right,
it's
yeah,
not last year's Bears offensive line with like Riley Reef being out. Like these are
yep.
legit starters.
No, 100%. Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know. I think you stick to your keys. Defensive line, attacks. Miles Garrett, you keep him in check. Don't let him have that one, game wrecking, game changing, game winning type of play, and just keep your composure out there. Keep keep it rolling all game long. Whatever happens, stay within yourselves. Don't, you take one of those sacks, a negative play. Don't go out and try to, get everything back right away. Just kind of steady as she goes. I don't know, man. I think the Bears. I'm gonna take the Bears 23-20. I'll take them to win. I know I don't necessarily feel great about it, but I think there's got to be a big part of, especially this offense, who wants a little bit of revenge. They seem like, regardless of what our opinions are on Justin Fields, it seems like they love him in the locker room. Seems like he's great around the team and all leader, all that sort of good stuff, the intangibles. And they all know what happened the first time he was there. And I'm sure they're going to want to kind of protect their guy and give him a shot at some serious redemption. And then, you get past this one, man, you're really, really rolling in the thick of it. If some other things can bounce your way, to you Cleveland.
You froze up a little bit on me on the end, but I think overall I caught you. Just Bears, slight winners today is the prediction. Stick to them keys. My prediction, uh, I'm gonna predict Bears winner, but I have honestly no idea what to expect this game. The last few weeks, I felt like what to expect. This week, I'm not so much feeling it. So I'm gonna go ahead and predict Bears 23. No, we'll say 24 because you said 23. Bears 24, Cleveland 17. So that'll be my prediction. Looks like we just got Jack back. He's going in and out a
Sorry
little
about that.
bit.
I don't
No,
know.
no worries.
I don't know where I left off, but
We
let
caught
me
we
know
caught your
on
score
my end. But
prediction. I predicted Bears win as well, but I have no idea what to expect. I'm gonna go with 24 16 Bears.
Okay, shut them down a little bit, baby. Yeah,
We'll
love
see.
it. Yeah. Well, sorry about that
No
internet
worries.
connection situation. But yeah, man, super excited. Like I said, it's cool kind of doing this right before the game.
Yeah,
It's
it's fun.
you know, yeah, you feel a little juiced up, ready to rock and roll. Hopefully they go out there, take care of business, and these games just keep getting bigger and bigger down the stretch. And we see what this team's made of. See what we got going forward. I can't wait, man. I'm excited to get after it this afternoon. You got any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I well, yeah. One last thought. 4 games left of Justin Fields. Enjoy every minute of it. We may never have a quarterback as good as him ever again. So just
Oh, Jesus.
enjoy, enjoy these last 4 games, and just be happy they happened, and not so sad that they end. Just be happy that they happened at some point in our lives.
Hey, man. It's we're not going to leave it on a somber note, man. It's in his hands.
It's in his
Truly
hands for
is.
sure.
Some people might think front office has their mind made up one way or another already. But he's got 4 more games, man. Even if you say, yo, they got their mind made up, they're taking a quarterback. If Justin Fields goes out there and is an absolute world beater for the next quarter of the season, after what he's already shown to improve upon in recent weeks, it's him, man. It's on him. Put up or shut up. Force him. You know, if you want to move on from me, it's going to be hard to do. I guess is kind of the mindset he's got to have. Go
Well
out there
said.
and get it. So yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. Can't wait. Let's keep it rolling, baby. Get another W, Bears W.
Hell yeah.
Slide to 6-8, and Vikings already lost
If
yesterday. That
they
was a good one for us. So
if they find a way to win today, 8-8 is possible. Like, I'm not saying it's in the bag because these are games in the NFL and the Bears are far from a perfect team. But if they could find a way to win today, 8-8 is really, really possible, and that could get really interesting real fast. So, bear
amen.
down. I'm looking forward to watching this game. I'm looking forward to these next 4 weeks and what the rest of the NFL season has to hold for us, and just be rooting on them Bears, baby.
Amen, brother. Let's get after it. Everyone, enjoy yourselves out there today. Crack a couple Miller Lights or whatever you fancy. Get some drinks flowing. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy this last month of the season coming down the stretch. We only got a few of these left, and like you said, who knows what type of team we're looking at next year. So, these Bears have been frustrating, but they got a real good shot to give us quite the thrill down the stretch here. It starts
Amen.
today, so let's keep it rolling. Let's go get a W. Mm, Bears.
Bears.